Well, I found this bit of slate when I was at the garden centre, and it was a nice bit of slate, and I managed to split it in two really easily as well. It split really well. And I'm going to have a go at splitting this one again into two as well. And all I did was, I'm not sure if this might be too thin to split in two, but we will see. All I did was I got a screwdriver like this and tapped it in what looked like a seam to me. And it has split, but it's split that bit off separate to this bit. I really wanted it to stay whole, but there you go, it doesn't matter. Because I'm not going to put this in the garden. What I'm going to try and do is, we need a new number for our house on the outside. And carve a number into it. Because I think it looks beautiful like that. But once it's all carved into as well, I think it's going to look even more beautiful. Oh, that's come out a lovely bit. Look at that. And those bits I'm going to use for something else. Have no idea yet, but they'll feature in some sort of upcycle. But this bit, I'm going to have a go at carving a new number in there. And then making it really nice, sealing it, ready to put on a piece of wood outside. Well, I've cut out a number 4 on my Cricut, and I've decided that I want it to be a nice large number 4, and I've only cut it out of copy paper. And I think I want it to go there. I was going to have it round the other way, but actually I really like it this way. So I'm going to draw around that first before I do anything else, so I can then take this bit of paper off here and then carve it out. I've never done anything like this before, so, well, I have carved before, but I've never carved like this before on a piece of slate. And I can neaten this up once I've finished it. Oh, actually, that's come out okay, I think. That looks nice and neat. But I also need to drill some holes in this as well before I do anything else. Because I don't want to go and do all this carving in it and then go to drill my holes in it to mount it and then find that I've broken it, because that would really upset me. Now I'm going to drill my holes in. I think that's where I was going to put them, but I think they're going to be too near the edges there. And I don't want to cause anything to actually break, because I think bringing them in a little bit more, hopefully, will really help. So if I bring them in a bit more, and I shall use brass screws on this anyway. I'm going to hold this quite flat, and I'm going to drill this with a number 5 drill bit. And I'm going to go fairly slow, I think. So it seems to have drilled okay. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to finish drilling the rest of these holes, and then I'll show you how I'm going to carve this, or how I'm going to attempt to carve it. I put this on a cloth because I don't want to cause it to rock and then push too hard on it anywhere and break it, because I know that that is the sort of thing I'm likely to do. And I've got an assortment here of really cheap, these ones aren't so cheap, but these ones are really cheap clay or wood carving tools. They were no good whatsoever for wood carving. They just were not sharp enough. So I put them in with my clay working tools, but I think they will work for this. So what I'm going to do is start with my straighter lines here, and then using a blade, because this is quite soft, I'm going to try and get my nice neat edge going all the way around. And there are some curves in it, so I'm going to remove the number 4 as opposed to remove all the stuff around it. And I think that's going to be a lot easier. And also, I might use my Dremel as well to cut some of the bulk out of it. It depends how quickly it goes. It might not go that quickly, so, or it might go really quickly and come out really well. Yep, I can now see where I've done an outline all the way around that. And what I'm going to start to use is these tools here. Just gently go in like that. Taking off a little layer as I go. Get that depth into it. And it seems to keep coming out quite easily. I may have to go in and sand it afterwards. I saw one of these the other day about having one done, and they wanted to charge me like 60 quid for a handmade number 4. And I thought, well, I've got this slate, so I might as well see if I can do it myself. Because I think this piece of slate cost me something like £3. What's that? $4.50 from the garden centre. And it's carving out really easily at this moment in time. Well, I said a big thank you to everybody that got me a coffee last month as well. I really do appreciate it. Honestly, your coffees enable me to keep making videos on this channel. I just love the messages as well people send when they buy me a coffee. So if you get me a coffee, please write a little message in there as well. I love reading them. I found that pushing away from the edge is easier than pushing towards the edges, and it's not cracking as much on the edges by doing that. Well, that carved out much easier than I thought it would, and it didn't take long at all. I think it took me about 3/4 of an hour to do that. It is quite soft, which is fortunate. What I'm going to do now is just go around the edges like this and just tidy up some of my edges so they're a little bit sharper. And that shouldn't take too long. All I'm going to do is take off a little bit as I go around, just to sharpen them off a bit so it's a bit neater. And then if I've got any raised bits here anywhere, I'm going to grind them down like that. And I did this all by hand. It didn't take long. I was so surprised I didn't have to use my Dremel or anything with it. And now what I'm going to do is go through with a really fine grit sandpaper. Just give that a bit of a sand and give these edges a little bit of a sand as well. And I think that will smooth those off, finish that off a lot nicer. I wish I'd bought several bits of this when I saw it, because I could do with making some more of these for other people. Now I'm going to research how to seal it as well, because I want to seal this before I do anything else to it. So that's a bit of research, bit Googling. Yeah, I think that's finished it off nicely. I really quite like that. Well, you can get some proper slate and stone sealer. I haven't got any, so I'm going to do it with some varnish, acrylic varnish. Give it 3 coats, even coats, and let it dry well between each coat. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'll give that 3 coats like this all the way over this face and around these edges as well. Because what I don't want it to do is I don't want water to get into it and then split it even further if it freezes. So I want to seal it right off from water, because obviously it's going to be outside. Oh, it's really brought those colours out and that grain out as well. Lovely. And then I'm going to make something to mount this onto before I mount it onto the wall outside. Mustn't forget inside the screw holes either. There we go, and we'll let that dry. And then I'll do 2 more coats, and then I'll show you how I'm going to fill this bit in the number 4 so it's more prominent, and what I'm going to mount it on. We've got a piece of plywood here that I'm going to cut down. Now, I don't want too big a bit of wood here, because what I don't want to do is detract too much away from the stone sign. So I'm just going to cut that down there, and then I can prep that up while this is drying. And now I'm going to give this a quick sand all the way over, including these edges. Well, that's nice and smooth now, and also that's given that a bit of a rounded edged finish to it. I want this to be quite dark, the finish on this, because the actual sign, it's quite light. I'm going to put a couple of coats of black primer on it first, which should protect it as well from the element, before I put my final coat of black on it. And I'm going to do all the edges. I definitely think black is the right move for this. If I don't like it, I can always change it to a different colour. So I'll let that dry, I'll give it a second coat, then I'll coat the back, and then I can show you how I'm going to finish decorating the actual piece of cardstock. Well, these are both dry now, so I can do the next stage. I've put a couple of extra coats on this. And what I'm going to do is spray this with clear gloss yacht varnish. And the reason I'm using yacht varnish is it is a really great, strong and very durable varnish, and it works brilliant. It's long lasting, and it's designed for exterior use as well as interior use. And I'll give it a couple of coats of this all the way round. I'm going to show you, while this is drying, what I plan to do with this. I think this is going to look beautiful. Well, these are both dry now, so I'm ready to fill this 4 in. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is use this large or wide transfer tacky paper over the top. Now, this is only tacky, like a brown paper, and I'm going to rub that over the whole of this surface, so that when I put my centre bit in, it's not going to cover everywhere else and cause me some problems and clean up. So all I need to do now is take a sharp blade and cut out where I want to be exposed. Now, if you've got a nice steady hand, you probably don't need to do this, but I don't have a steady hand. So now that paper's on there, what I can do is use my gilding glue now and go in here and give that a good covering of gilding glue all the way through, making sure I cover everywhere. I love this gilding glue. It's so useful for so many different things. And don't forget, it goes on white and then it will dry clear, and it's great for attaching glitters and all sorts of things. And this isn't going to soak into your carving because we've already sealed it anyway. So I'm pretty confident now that that is well covered. I'll leave that to dry for about 10 minutes and then I can show you what I'm going to do to make that look spectacular. So that's nice and dry and I can put my shiny stuff in there. And what I'm going to be using is these chameleon flakes by Let's Resin. And I'm going to be using the fuchsia ones because I think that will look nice against the black background and the colour of this stone. And all I'm going to do is pop those in like this and then burnish them into place. And that will stick really well onto this glue that we put down. And the more burnishing you do, the shinier it becomes. I want to make sure I get in all the nooks and the crannies and all the edges as well. I love these chameleon flakes. They do such a wonderful job of making everything look beautiful. And they go ever such a long way as well. It's not like you think, oh, I'm going to use a whole pot on one project, because it doesn't. They go a really, really long way. And I think that's fully covered now. Now what I'm going to do is just go along with my brush, lightly burnishing these off. And that will make it really shine. There we go. Now I can take off my paper. So now my paper's off and that has kept that beautifully nice and clean, which is what I wanted it to do, because you know how messy I am. And again, that has now given that a real nice chameleon feel. So now I want to add this to the black backboard, but I need to mark my screw holes so I can do a little bit of countersinking so they'll screw in easier. What I've got here is a permanent white marker and a micro brush. And I'm just putting some of that white ink onto that micro brush. And then I'm going to drop in my micro brush into my hole and mark where I need to drill. There we go. So now I know where those holes have got to be. I can quickly drill a little hole into there. And I also want to put some rubber washers on the back of this because when I screw this down, I want it to have a little bit of play in it so it doesn't break this, because obviously that is a little bit fragile. Now, I don't have any rubber washers, but what I do have is a piece of rubber matting. So all I'm going to do is cut myself some rubber washers out of this rubber matting. And this is the matting I use in my studio to keep my carpet, well, to keep the flooring clean and to keep a grip. So I'm just going round those like that. Don't have to be perfectly round because you're not going to see them. And then I've got my hole punch and I can just do a hole in the middle. And then I've got a little rubber washer I can put over those holes. So what I've done is I've put my screws through and I've also put my rubber grommets on. And now I can line those screws up with the holes that I just made. And now I can screw that in. I can push that in fairly tight because that rubber is going to really help to absorb any pressure, and hopefully that will give a nice tight grip to that. And I'm going to screw these in by hand as well so that I've got a little bit more control rather than using my electric screwdriver, which might take it down too quick and then cause it to crack. There we go, that's on there nice and solid, and that is not going to move anywhere. That number 4 is really well put on there. I love that. I think that is beautiful. And you know what? That has cost me next to nothing compared to how much it would have cost me. It probably cost me £3 to make. A little bit of time, but nowhere near as much time as I thought. And now I can just go and put it onto the wall outside, and then people will be able to know what number house we're at. I will drill that through here and here and then screw that to the wall. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this project. I have loved making this project. I found it really easy to do, a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. That is never going to go anywhere now. That is permanently on there. And I just think it gives it a little bit of sparkle and a little bit of shine to my house number. You could even do a house name or anything like that if you had a bit of slate. I might try that another day. Boot that like button, hit that subscribe button. Links to everything that I've used are in the description below. Check out the video that I've got coming up next. I think you'll love that one as well. Take care. Enjoy your crafting. Bye.